First things first, I will take latest drama involving Rodgers and Packers for 1,000, Aaron. We're going to talk some Packers, and we're going to play some Jeopardy! James Harden had to leave last night's game early with an injury. Should Nets fans be concerned despite the win last night? And Brandon's Jets, Jets. They did the thing. Traded Sam Darnold to Carolina. We will have all the angles on that one. And with that, we say good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna, Nick.
Good morning.
Brandon, our resident Jets fan. And Kevin Wilds. Brandon, does this trade affect your comeback plans? Are you going to have to finally put the ball down?
I don't know. It depends on who we take. If it's Zach Wilson, I'm not coming back. If it's Justin Fields, I'll consider it. We'll see.
Right, good
big news.
Good to know. Got to factor that in. We'll get to all that in a second, but we got to start with the men's national title game last night, Baylor, Gonzaga. And on this night, the Baylor Bears were the better team by a mile, leading wire to wire in this one as they win their first men's basketball national title. For Gonzaga, after that incredible Final Four win Saturday night, their dreams of a perfect season were dashed. Baylor, your national champs. Here's head coach Scott Drew after the game.
When the best is needed, the best is usually provided. And as RG3 would always say, no pressure, no diamonds. And our guys, the better the opponent, the better they play. And they love being the first. First to win conference since 1950. First to win a national championship. I mean, that really motivates them.
Listen, Baylor they just beat us. They beat us in every facet of the game tonight and deserve all the credit. And obviously we're all disappointed in here, but, as I told the guys, you make it this far and you're 31-0 going into the last 40 minutes of the season. There's absolutely nothing you should ever feel bad about. And they'll look back on this season as time passes as something just amazing and incredible. But again, just hats off to Baylor. They dominated us on both sides of the ball.
It's just hard to come back from what Gonzaga did Saturday night. Baylor, just the fifth team ever to defeat both Final Four opponents by 15 points or more. Nick, start with you. Why did last night happen the way it did? Why did it unfold that way?
Because Baylor's better than Gonzaga, and I think Baylor was better than Gonzaga all year long. Listen, Baylor had 2 losses this season, which is why they didn't have the gaudy undefeated record that Gonzaga did. But all records are not created equal. Baylor had a stretch in December where they played 1 game in 17 days. They had a stretch in February where they went 3 weeks without playing, which I think you can say led to their slip-ups against Kansas and Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament. Oklahoma State, that is, 2 teams they had beaten in the regular season. But Baylor all year long looked poised to do this. And if you look at the final top 25 rankings prior to the tournament, and you look at who's in it, Baylor has now beaten this season teams 1, 2, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18, and 21. They ran roughshod over the best teams in basketball. Conversely, Gonzaga played some pretty good teams early in the season, and then once conference play starts, they play nobody. And then in this NCAA tournament, through no fault of their own, they got a pretty favorable draw because of the upsets, where all of a sudden you're playing USC and UCLA instead of Arkansas and Houston, as Baylor had to go through. And Gonzaga, I think, Brandon, was really damaged by their game back in December with Baylor being canceled, because they were not ready for the physicality, they were not ready for the athleticism, and they were not ready for those 2 pros in the Gonzaga in the Baylor backcourt. So I know this was an upset, but I don't think it was an upset as far as the inferior team winning. I think Baylor's better than Gonzaga, and they showed it for 40 full minutes last night.
Right, and if we just stick to last night, Nick, Jalen Suggs goes down early because he's in foul trouble. 2 fouls early. Then Baylor Bears, what do? They go on the run. They were too fast, too explosive. They were too much. Gonzaga never had that run. Gonzaga never had a chance after that. That was the story. That was the end of the story. And then after that, when you look at the bigger picture, Baylor finished the job. Let's not forget. Let's go back to the end of last year. Entering the tournament, they were the #1 seed. They won 23 games in a row before COVID-19 hit and the tourney was canceled. So they finished the job. Baylor did not. It's terrible because I think we all deep down wanted to see a perfect season. It's been since, 1975, 76 season?
76.
That we saw 76 that we saw an undefeated team finish the job. So deep down, like I said yesterday, in my heart, I wanted Gonzaga to pull it off, but my head told me that the Baylor guards were way too much. And from the start, from the tip-off, they were way too explosive and way too fast, wild, and they didn't have a chance.
I totally agree, Brandon. I was shocked by how quickly this game was over. Because, Nick, you know who else came into a big championship match undefeated? Michael Spinks, 31-0. And then he faced Mike Tyson. 90 seconds, match is over. And that's exactly what happened to Gonzaga. This is just the first 90 seconds. Baylor wins the tip. They end up getting 3 offensive rebounds. They get their hands on 2 passes. They're not really deflections because they ended up going insane, but 2 deflections, and they get a charge call. Okay, and that was it. And poor Bill Rafferty is like, these early leads are deceiving. Don't think too much about it. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. When you see how the game played out, the offensive rebounds, Gonzaga ends up getting 5. Baylor gets 16. Baylor gets 8 steals. Gonzaga gets 4. The lead balloons up to 20. This was over so quickly. I was shocked that it felt more like a boxing match than a basketball match, Nick. A basketball match?
Well, I'm not shocked that when Wilds needed to go to his historical sports archive of what's an instance of someone or some team being undefeated and not finishing the job, he went Spinks Tyson as opposed to his beloved Patriots Giants because he's memory hold that game and he's pretending. What, Wilds? What? I'm wrong?
I'm wrong? You know what team no one gave a shot to? The old Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Kansas City Chiefs got Ndamukong Suh punching him in the helmet.
They weren't undefeated.
I could have said that. I could have gone that one.
Not undefeated.
Nice to you.
But speaking of undefeateds, I understand. Listen, I heard Jay Billis say that he will remember this Gonzaga team forever. I won't. Like, this was a really good team that had No, hold up. It's not too soon. This was a really good team that had a great player in Suggs. Okay, well, so let me give you a couple other examples because I just want to know your favorite memory from the 2015 magical Wichita State Shockers or 2014. Wait, there's none. So here are the undefeated teams that were entered the tournament undefeated since Indiana. 79, we remember. That's Larry Bird, and they lost to Magic Johnson. 91 UNLV, one of the greatest teams ever, lost in one of the greatest games ever against Duke. Wichita State Shockers lost in the round of 32 to Kentucky, and then that Kentucky team that had Booker and Karl Anthony Towns, they couldn't finish the job. This Gonzaga team is a lot more Wichita State Shocker than it is 91 UNLV running Rebels. And college basketball folks got mad at me yesterday because I said even if they won, I don't think this will go down in history as one of the 10 greatest college teams ever, even though they were undefeated. And I think you saw why that was last night.
The better team won last night. Baylor, your national champs. Yeah, much more on this, though.
Body's still warm.
to come. We got to talk some Aaron Rodgers, though. Is his future in Green Bay in jeopardy? See what I did there? Check out this moment from Jeopardy.
Poor kids is crying.
Over to our two-day champion on the end. Scott, did you come up with the correct response? Who wanted to kick that field goal? That is a great question. Should be correct, but unfortunately for this game today, that's incorrect.
I know you are. Just like that, the Sam Darnold era in New York is over. Carolina Panthers traded for Darnold yesterday. Got him for a 6th rounder this year, a 2nd and 4th rounder next year. Brandon, your guys, your team, trading for Sam Darnold should have Panthers fans feeling blank.
Yeah, we'll touch on the Jets a little later on in the show and how the Jets fans should feel. But to answer your question, suspicious. They should be suspicious. I'm not sure, Jenna, that Sam Darnold makes your team better. I'm not sure that he's better than Teddy Bridgewater. If you go back to 2018, look at the numbers. A lot of people say numbers don't lie. And if that's true, then Teddy Bridgewater was your better option. Like, you have a team that has tremendous skill players. McCaffrey goes down last year, and he's dealing with injuries all year. He's now healthy. I really wanted to see Teddy Bridgewater come back and compete. They lost 11 in their games by a score or less. So I'm not so certain that this guy, Sam Darnold, is the better option. So suspicious.
Yeah, listen, I'm confused for the same reason. We have no evidence that Darnold's better than Bridgewater. And it's not because Bridgewater's great. It's because Darnold has not put together one excellent stretch of football in his 3-year career to this point. But clearly, when you give up a 2, a 4, and a 6, and the other thing the Panthers did yesterday was they picked up his 5th-year option, which is $19 million guaranteed for injury in 2022. They're saying they're going to move forward and give Darnold, I would imagine, at least 2 years to see if he's the guy. I understand what they're doing, Wilds. They're basically taking the position of everything Adam Gase touches turns to, well, the opposite of gold. So once you get away from him, you'll be better. But it's an odd risk when, to me, you have a superior quarterback already under contract for the next 2 seasons.
So they believe in him. I think it's a smart move. I've been the only guy that believes in Sam Darnold, believes he got a raw deal. He's younger than Joe Burrow, and he's won some football games. So do you want to take an unknown out of the draft? Like, I think Trey Lance will still be there. Do you want to go with what you already do know with Teddy Bridgewater? Or do you want to take a shot at a guy who's younger than Joe Burrow, who hasn't reached his potential? I like this trade for Carolina.
Sam Darnold looking for a second chance to make a first impression. On to Aaron Rodgers now, the MVP going through a weird time in Green Bay. He admitted yesterday that his stellar season may have thrown a wrench in some timelines. Hey, Brandon, Aaron Rodgers' comments yesterday were blank.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. This has turned into my favorite record, Jenna. Let's go back to last year's draft when they drafted Jordan Love. Let's go back and see what he said, okay? We'll go back here, and here's where he's at. I think that's probably what happens based on just the circumstances around everything. Just look at the facts. They traded up. They drafted him. I would say they like him. They want to play him. And then we go to the Packers NFC Championship loss. Here's what he says. The only thing you need to know here is at the bottom. A lot of guys' futures, they're uncertain, myself included. And then you go to the interview this past weekend. I said last year I didn't know if that was actually possible to be able to finish there. And he said there, that's a key. What do you mean there? You mean here? Aren't you still on the team? I still feel that's kind of where we're at. I don't know that a lot of that is in my hands. I guess we'll just kind of see as we go. And then yesterday, he's doubling down and continues this record. I love this record. You need to play it. I think we're exactly where we were last year when I made the comments. That's all you need to hear. That's all you need to see. This is a record, Nick, and right now it's my favorite record. Yeah. But it sounds like, by the end of this offseason, it may be broken, man.
Yeah, well, and to me, I think that's great, Brandon. His comments yesterday were vindicating for him and for me. For him, it's just for his season was vindicating. Oh, you went out and drafted a quarterback? Oh, I'm the league MVP. But Wilds, it's vindicating for me because I don't know if you remember what take that was out there in the football atmosphere last year that infuriated me more than any single other take there was. And that was
Yes.
The Packers are actually crazy like a fox. They drafted Jordan Love to motivate Aaron Rodgers. And look, it's working. Oh, really? You still think that was a good pick? You still think the Jordan Love draft pick is working out swell? Oh, Aaron played great. Yeah, he played great. Unfortunately, he's going on every media outlet imaginable except for this one, flaming the organization and talking about how he doesn't know what his future holds. So I say it's vindicating for him and for me, Wilds.
Well, Nick, hey, and Wilds, we need to really pay attention right now because the more he's talking, the more red flags that are coming up. This deal, if it doesn't get done, it's going to be ugly in Green Bay.
Huh. Don't you think this could be like the reverse Darnold? That was my answer, reverse Darnold. The Jets were like jettison their starting quarterback because they want something new. The Packers should keep their starting quarterback and jettison their backup quarterback. And you look at what the Panthers gave up for Sam Darnold, who you kind of like, look, I'm pro Sam Darnold, but I could understand why people think they doesn't have it. I feel like the Packers should be intrigued, like, oh, that sure is a big haul for Sam Darnold. Maybe we get picks similar to that or a little bit better for Jordan Love and try to go all in and win a championship, Jenna.
What am I missing here? A disgruntled Aaron Rodgers just won the MVP. Maybe he shouldn't be happy with everything. It worked for him last year. Let's roll it again and see if it works next year. Exactly. All right, let's move on. Talk some Antonio Brown now. I haven't talked about him in a while. Still looking for a home in free agency. And on a recent Bucks IG post about bringing all their starters back, AB commented, sign AB. I don't know, do you think no one would see that? Brandon, Antonio Brown's message to the Bucks is blank.
I'll be quick here. This is a $16 billion business, and you have multi-million-dollar athletes. What does that mean? There's huge egos in play here. And this is just AB, Nick, feeling left out. That's all that is. Yep. You're talking about the Super Bowl team, and you're not including me? Me? Come on. So that's all that is. It's just he feels left out, Nick.
Brandon, you said a lot of words. Put Brandon on the screen if you can. You said a lot of words to what you could have said in one word. And you tried to be all professional. Television's own Brandon Marshall. I'm going to tell you what Brandon was thinking because it's the right answer. Antonio Brown's message to the Bucks is thirsty. He's out here on these IG streets looking thirsty. Missing the team, missing his ex, wondering why they're moving on without him, bitingly like dropping in the comment, might slide into some DMs because it feels like, wait, you don't need me, but I need you. Yeah, exactly right. That's the answer, Wilds. Antonio Brown's message to the Bucks is thirsty and a tad bit embarrassing.
Okay. So, Nick, I'll throw it back to you. Who brought Antonio Brown to the Bucks?
Tom Brady.
So don't you think Tom Brady should be involved in bringing him back? Like, we haven't heard anything from Tom, not even like a like on a post. So my answer is tag Tom. All Tom Brady needs to do is put a little heart next to that to send a little message to everybody in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. I'm surprised we haven't heard a more vocal Tom Brady because I think the idea that, I'm going to let Antonio Brown go get his money, well, that's not happening. So if you want him back, you got to say publicly you want him back or put pressure on the organization. Of course you need it.
Awkward if they're still living together.
Well, Brandon,
it's a luxury.
Brandon, we're to the into the first week of April. Are you at all surprised that a team hasn't come in and offered Antonio Brown, I don't know, $10 million for 2 years or 2 years, $20 million, $10 million a year, some type of deal that would get him signed? Because it's not just that the Bucks haven't signed him, nobody has signed him. And I don't think he's waiting on Tampa, but there doesn't seem to be a market for him right now, Brandon, at least at the dollars he expects.
Listen, I don't want to sit here and act like my grass was always green, but you know how it is. When your antics start being too much, teams start just moving away from you. That's what this is, if we want to keep it real. I mean, Antonio Brown, he did a great job second half of last year and still to this day, but there's a lot of question marks. The way you left the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, the way you left the Las Vegas Raiders organization, that stings, and that's going to sting for a very long time.
That's right.
All right, we'll wait and see on AB. We got to get back to the New York Jets. Their side of the Sam Darnold trade. Did they make the right call? Sending Sam to Carolina. Brandon's all fired up. It's next. First things first. Stay with us. Back here talking yesterday's big NFL trade. The Jets sending Sam Darnold to Carolina for 3 draft picks. New York owns that second overall pick. Clearly, they're going to grab a quarterback. Clearly, that quarterback is primed to be the next face of the franchise. Sam was supposed to be the last face of the franchise. We got former All-Pro Brian Westbrook joining the conversation now. Brian, good morning. Thanks for being with us. What was your reaction to this deal?
You know, Jenna, good morning. But I thought this deal was a win-win for both sides. If you're the Jets, you get rid of a quarterback and get some draft picks for a guy that wasn't going to play at all because you're going to draft a quarterback. And if you're the Panthers, a team that's been looking for a quarterback all season, now you get a 23-year-old quarterback that has some potential, some upside, and you hopefully be able to tap into that potential. But this deal was done when Joe Douglas went to Zach Wilson's pro day. And I know Brandon loves Justin Fields, but I think Joe Douglas likes Zach Wilson. He saw the arm talent. He saw the athleticism. And at that point, he got on the phone and started trying to find a place to send Sam Darnold. And just think about this, Brandon. 2 years ago, Joe Douglas is in Philadelphia, not a lot of power or control because at that point, Howie Roseman is there. And so Joe Douglas ends up in New York. He's found a way to get his head coach, Robert Saleh. He has his choice at quarterback at this point. And now he has the ability to go out there and compete. He's built his team in a pretty decent way. He's found some free agents this offseason. Now he has to go out there and compete. He has a quarterback. He has a coach. He now has to build that team. And he's going to have to compete against the Patriots, who are trying to build their team through free agency. You're talking about a gritty Dolphins team that played well last year, and also the class of division than the Buffalo Bills. And so I think this is a great place for the Jets to be at this point, probably a better place than they've been in the last 10 years.
Okay, so I'm just going to take this whole Zach Wilson, Justin Fields conversation. I'm going to sit it on the shelf, all right? I heard the disrespect to the Jets. I heard the disrespect to my take and my feelings. I'm going to just put it right here, okay? Look,
no disrespect.
It was a great trade. It was a great trade. I thought we would get a 2 for him. We got more. But here's the deal. When you look at it, this whole trade, this whole conversation around, well, should they keep Sam Darnold? That whole nonsense. No, you don't keep Sam Darnold when you have the number 2 overall pick and you're taking a quarterback, a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson. I'll throw his name in there because everybody want to talk about this Zach kid. So, no, I'm glad we made the trade. But the only thing that, I'm a little disturbed about is that we got a 6th-rounder this year. In the NFL, it stands for not for long. We live day to day, week to week, year to year at times. So when you look at that, what is that 6th-rounder going to do for a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson? What are they going to do for those veterans in the locker room? What are they going to do for those coaches? Now, I know Joe Douglas is known to be a really good college scout. And I made some calls yesterday because I had one interaction with him. I went to the Florham Park, went into the facility. I met him one time, and he was just like a one-word guy. And I was like, there's not much to him. So I really didn't know. So yesterday I had to make some phone calls. I'm like, tell me more about Joe Douglas. And they said, Brandon, this guy knows what he's doing. And this was around the league. They said when it comes to college scouting and building in the draft, he is that guy. So I have to trust that he has a plan, whether it's more ammo to move up in this year's draft, or he's looking at it saying, we have a lot this year. Next year, I'm just worrying about can we come back and do it again? So Joe Douglas, I have to believe in him. But if I'm a veteran in that locker room, Nick, I'm like, what is this 6th-round pick going to do for me this year? I need to win right now.
Well, if you're a veteran in that locker room, you probably are coming off a pretty bad season. They didn't have a lot of veterans exactly distinguish themselves in glory last year as they were barreling towards 0-16, and they ended up winning a couple games. And I think it's a smart, long-term view by Joe Douglas, understanding that if the best value we can get comes in the 2022 draft rather than 2021 draft, so be it. Like, sometimes it's better to wait. And they do have plenty of draft ammo already for this year. Now they have more for next year. So I think the Jets got about 110 cents on the dollar for Darnold, because I don't think the Panthers are going to be good next year. So I think that's going to be a high second-round pick. And so you're going to end up with a pick in probably the high 30s, plus a fourth-rounder, plus a sixth-rounder. I also think it speaks to how far Darnold has fallen that 3 years after he goes third overall, getting the equivalent to maybe the 35th pick of the draft all in is considered, at least by me, 110 cents on the dollar. I also think this informs why a team like the Niners thinks they can get a first-round pick for Jimmy G. If Darnold's worth a good 2, a good 4, and a good 6, then Jimmy G is worth at least a bad number 1. So I think this is the Jets attempting to build things the right way. And I think taking advantage sounds bad, but that's how I view it. Taking advantage of maybe a slightly over-eager new owner in Carolina, a team that instead of wanting to slow cook a rebuild, wants to microwave it a bit and say, oh, maybe Darnold can be the guy he was in college, but has never shown that he can be in the pros. So I think all things considered, Wilds, the Jets did as well as they could have done. But they'd like to have that third overall pick all over again. And keep in mind, it's worse than that because they traded up from 6 to get Darnold at 3. They ended up trading, including 3 second-round picks to move up. So that's a lot of equity they spent on a player who they ended up getting nothing out of.
Well, my reaction, Nick, was that I was happy that Carolina had finally listened to me. I said, you know what you should view Sam Darnold as? Don't view him as a quarterback of the New York Jets who's lost a lot of games. Just view him as a project, and that he should have go down to House of Athlete and have a pro day, and then compare him to Mac Jones, compare him to Trey Lance, and see where he lines up. And that's what I think Carolina did. If we can see the draft order, Carolina is drafting in a spot where there's going to still be one of the big 5 quarterbacks still there. We know that Trevor Lawrence is off the board. Sorry, Brandon. We know that Zach Wilson is probably off the board. Maybe San Francisco takes Mac Jones. Maybe he doesn't. But the Falcons are hunting. I thought the Falcons were going to get a tight end. We know the Bengals aren't going to take anybody. They're happy. We know the Dolphins, who love to collect quarterbacks, but seems like they're married to Tua. Are the Lions going to be eating kneecaps in drafting quarterbacks? I don't know. Stick with Goff. So then there you are. So is Trey Lance going to be on the board? Probably. Is Justin Fields going to be on the board? Maybe. But to me, Nick, that's saying that like Sam Darnold, the sure thing. Brandon, he could be there. Brandon, I'm sorry, he could still be there. I think that
since you pushed the Since you pushed the conversation to the Carolina Panthers and you talked about Sam Darnold coming down to House of Athlete, he's not going to do that. He's out west with Jordan Palmer, guy who joined us last week, and he's working on the things he needs to. Look, I do think the kid's upside is there.
Brandon
I do think he was in a bad situation in New York. But you know who is here and who trains here every day? It's Teddy Bridgewater. When I get out of here, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be in the locker room finishing up his workout. And so when you look at this, Nick, this situation, I don't know if Sam Darnold is better than Teddy Bridgewater. Matter of fact, he's not. Did we forget what he did down in New Orleans when Drew Brees went down? What did he go 6-0 and he lit it up? He opened the offense up. This is a dude who was having a phenomenal start to his career out in Minnesota. Now, he wasn't putting up big numbers, but the kid was winning. He was getting everybody involved, and nobody had anything bad to say. And then you go to last year. This dude has the weapons. They bring the weapons back. They're healthy. McCaffrey's coming back. And you compare the numbers the last 3 years, and it's night and day. And so I'm not sure, that the Carolina Panthers got better.
So I don't think they did either. I also think Teddy is better than Sam Darnold, but, and this is Teddy Bridgewater's kind of lot in life, if Teddy Bridgewater is your quarterback, you are always going to be looking for an upgrade. He is a good-ish starting quarterback, but not a guy that is going to make you feel like, well, we're set at the position for the next decade. The question I would have for you, Brian, is, to me, this is very clearly a bet against Adam Gase. Like, this is saying, all right, Ryan Tannehill was a first-round pick who looked like a bust. Miami got rid of him. He gets away from Adam Gase, goes to Tennessee, and plays really, really good football. Super efficient the last 2 years in the playoffs in the AFC title game a couple years ago. Do you buy the idea that it was not mostly Darnold, it was mostly a lack of weapons, a lack of offensive line play, and a terrible offensive system, and that maybe Darnold is going to look like a totally new player in Carolina?
Well, Nick, what we hear every single year from head coaches, GMs, owners, is we have to put talent around our quarterback. And we all know that Sam Darnold had no talent around him up there in New York. And so if you're telling me that he's going to be the same guy that he was in New York, that he'll be down there in Carolina, I just doubt that. I think he's going to have a bunch of talent around him. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best backs in the league. DJ Moore is a really good receiver. Robbie Anderson, a speedster that can get down the field. And you're talking about talent around him. And so when you think about it, I think when you're talking about, Joe Brady and those guys down there, they're saying Teddy Bridgewater is a floor for Sam Bradford. He has a little bit more upside. I don't think they believe that Teddy Bridgewater has enough upside to take their team where they want to be. That's why you make a move for a guy like Sam Bradford. And I think when you add the talent around him, he'll be a better quarterback. It remains to be seen what he's going to be, but he'll be much better than he was up there in New York.
Brian misses Sam Bradford a lot. There's clearly not going to be a quarterback competition down there. It seems like it's Sam Darnold's job at this point. We got to make a turn. Time for Nick's NBA medals. Devin Booker had a night last night, 36 points, as the Phoenix Suns got a win over the Rockets. But Booker just missing a medal. Nick, who we got today?
Yeah, the three Suns had good offensive nights. It was a high-scoring affair. None of them make the medal stand. Bronze medalist, first time on the medal stand, first career 30-point game. Darius Garland, part of that Sexland combo in Cleveland that we were talking about at the beginning of the year with Colin Sexton, Darius Garland. 37-7 for him. Congrats on your first medal, young man. A man who's been on the medal stand many times, but Brandon thinks he should be on there more. Kyrie, no James Harden, no problem. 40 points, 7 assists, potential copyright infringement on Damian Lillard's Dame Time celebration. More on that from Kevin Wildes in 38 minutes. Kyrie Irving, silver medalist. Gold medalist. Oh, look who it is. All of a sudden, inching his way into the MVP conversation. Oh, hey, Utah, isn't your calling card defense? Well, you know what should have been in the scouting report? Luka's awesome. 31-9-8 in a dominating win. An 18-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Win for the Mavs over the current number 1 seed in the West, the Utah Jazz. So there it is. Your medal stand, a young guy with his first ever medal. Kyrie gets a silver, and Luka gets a gold. What's up, Brandon? What's the problem?
Here we go. Here we go, Brandon.
Hey, listen, Nick, the guy had 40 points. He should be gold. Yeah. What did we? No, I kissed it. You're gold, baby. If Nick doesn't want to put you where you're supposed to be, that's what I'm talking about. No James Harden, no KD. He gets the win and he drops 40 and you don't put him in. Oh, my goodness.
No, Luka was better. Luka had to deal with Rudy Gobert. Luka was better.
Wildes, jump in here. Who missed the cut last night?
Oh, Aaron Baines. Aaron Baines is 6'10", 260. Are we sure that he couldn't become the heavyweight champion in the world if he's able to take a pass like this from Russell Westbrook? Right off the head, barely flinches. Last year I got hit with a balled-up paper towel from my 4-year-old son, and I was like really more shaken than Aaron Baines. So Aaron Baines, just think about it. If Brandon Marshall's willing to fight Deontay Wilder, surely we can sign you up for a few tomato cans, see what you got.
Got a couple months to get the job done or I'm retiring.
Make sure you guys enter today's Fox Bet Super 6 NBA contest for a chance to win $25,000. Download the Fox Bet Super 6 app. Pick the outcomes of 6 of today's NBA games for your chance to win. And as always, it is completely free to play. So have at it. We'll stick with some hoops. Kyrie had himself a night against the Knicks. Not good enough for Nick, though, but very close. It is being overshadowed by Harden's injury, though. That's what Brandon says. We'll talk next.
It should be gold. Should be gold. You know that.
Back here, first things first, we're talking Brooklyn Nets now. It was supposed to be the big 3 last night. KD warmed up. He did not, however, suit up. So it was the big 2. Then 4 minutes in, James Harden re-injured his hamstring and he was done for the night. Then it was the big one. But Kyrie was on a tear. They only needed 40 points in a win over the Knicks. Woo! Big night for Brooklyn. But how serious is Harden's injury? Here's head coach Steve Nash after the game.
It's just something where we have to protect him. We have to trust him. Very frustrating for James, but we can't risk it if we can afford not to. And so that depends on trust between us and James and making sure that he feels comfortable in the decision. And I thought tonight the right decision was to not take any risks with him. So, who knows? This may linger. It may be all behind us like we thought it was before the game, but it's just one of those things where the scan is clean, the strength tests are clean, but he feels something. So we're going to err on the side of caution.
The old lingering hamstring. Hard to deal with. What do you think, Chris Broussard, joining us now? How concerning is Harden's hamstring injury?
Well, it's not time to hit the panic button, but it has to be concerning. When Kevin Durant went down with a hamstring injury, the Nets said it'd be 2 games. And it's been almost 8 weeks. And James Harden is an Iron Man. Over the last 8 years, only 3 players in the league have played more games than him. So for him to take himself out of a game, he's feeling something. I said last week, it would be virtually unprecedented if this Nets team wins the championship because of their lack of time together on the floor. And now that's been ratcheted up even more. Their degree of difficulty has gotten even higher. It's very possible, if not likely, that they may go into the playoffs with their big 3 having played about 15 games together. For them to win a championship that way, I know they're talented as all get out. I've picked them. But this is starting to be concerned because there is some importance to chemistry. And here's the thing about Harden. He is the most important one. They've got plenty of firepower without him. Kevin Durant, we know, is their best player historically. But neither Kevin Durant or Kyrie is a table setter. Kyrie's just a cold-blooded scorer, as we saw last night, 40 points. And whenever Harden and KD aren't there, he takes about 25 to 30 shots and puts in buckets. But they need a table setter. When you got that much talent, that many guys who are used to getting the ball, not just the stars, but the role players. And that's what Harden does for that team. He keeps everybody involved. They were 7-6 with KD and Kyrie before Harden got there. They're 1-3 without Harden since the trade. They're 27-7 with James Harden, and most of that without KD. So they gotta get healthy and get these guys on the court together if they want to win a championship.
Yeah, but the only thing they should be concerned about is the seeding in the East. Are they number 1 or are they number 2? They're battling with the Sixers right now. The other thing they should be concerned about is chemistry right now. And we keep talking about chemistry between the big 3, but what about Landry Shamet? What about Blake Griffin they just brought him? What about LaMarcus Aldridge and Jeff Green? Those are the guys, Joe Harris. Those are the guys that this big 3 needs to play with, because the big 3, they've played pickup ball before. They've played on Team USA before. They got enough chemistry between them. James Harden and KD, they go back to Oklahoma together. So, yes, every year is different. The game has changed. Their games have evolved. They do need to play together. But at the end of the day, they know what the spots they need to be in. They know their roles. They figure that out early. And the last thing that needs to be a concern is the MVP chase for James Harden. James Harden came out a couple weeks ago and said, I am the MVP. And this whole thing that you guys keep talking about, well, the precedent and historical this and historical that, how many games dudes miss. So if he's going to miss games, that's the only thing should be concerned. But this hamstring, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned with. Why? Because you heard what Coach Nash said. Coach Nash said the image is clean. So as a player, you get hurt. The very first thing you do after practice or after a game, they send you right to the imaging department. You go get an MRI, you go get x-rays, and they go see. I pulled my quad, I pulled my hamstring, and right away, boom, they were able to see, Brandon, this is a grade 2. You're going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Going back to Miami game, Miami days playing on Thursday night football, snap my hamstring, saw it right away. And then we fast forward to 2018, popped my hamstring, saw it right away. So for the image to be clean, that's a really good thing. I don't know what the hell's going on in Brooklyn. I don't know if there's no clean water there and we're dehydrated. The body is made up of 70% water. Guys, y'all gotta hydrate. What is going on with these soft tissue injuries? And Nick, we know this. And my guys out there, I love you NBA basketball players, but here's the deal. You guys are softer than football players. So sometimes it takes them a little longer to get back to the court. A little longer. Yeah, I'm not, no shots fired. We know that.
Well,
we know that. A hamstring for a football player, maybe 2 weeks. Hamstring, there we go. There we go.
And I agree that I wouldn't be worried about Harden's long-term health. But those other things you glossed over about how you're going to work out the rotation and who's going to have what role. Luckily, what the Nets have is veteran, proven, established championship head coach Steve Nash to figure all that out under the most scrutinized playoff run we've seen since the 2018-17 Warriors. But, I'm old enough to remember, Wilds. I'm old enough to remember yesterday's show when the Nets topic was the big three all together finally. And it turns out it's one guy because KD didn't come back and Harden played 4 minutes. And, I'm very curious if going into the playoffs, if there was a new team and it was a big three of, I'm picking them out of thin air, Giannis, Beal, and Dame, would that be everyone's pick to win the championship? Because of the raw talent, but they never played together. Because that's essentially what we're going to be seeing. It's, hey guys, you played together for, in summer ball or in Oklahoma City a decade ago when Harden was the sixth man. And one of the things, Wilds, that we talked about when they traded for Harden is, what's the sacrifice going to be? We still don't know because no one's really had to do it because they haven't all played together.
James Harden
and so people can hold on. Brandon, real quick before I go to Wilds, just so you know, if the guy is playing at a level where he declares himself the MVP, he's not sacrificing. He's doing exactly what he wants.
But Nick,
sacrificing means taking a step back.
When KD was playing, Harden was taking like 15 shots a game. I mean, he did step back. Right, he deferred to Kyrie and KD. It was only a few games because KD got hurt, but he did defer. There's no doubt about it.
I know.
His MVP run is but we're doing KD.
Right. That's my point. He was looking like, he's going to be the third option. He's going to defer. Then
here's what's going to happen.
And now he's looking into Now he's looking into the camera saying, I'm the MVP. And now we totally expect when KD comes back for him to be like, I'm happy. I'm happy being the third option. I just want to see it, Brandon, because we don't know that that's going to happen. First, I just want to see it.
He'll do it. He'll do it.
All right, here we go, Wilds. First off, the whole coaching situation. You keep talking about coaching. Who's sitting next to Coach Steve Nash, the legend? We're talking about Mike D'Antoni. Don't forget about Coach. And then the second thing, here's the thing about KD. This is what's going to happen. KD's going to come back and he's going to be the one to sacrifice. You know this. It doesn't matter who is on the court outside of Michael Jordan. You take Michael Jordan out, if there's a hot hand, everybody's saying he's the hot player. Give him the ball. James Harden is hot right now. Keep the ball in James Harden's hands. So when you talk about who's going to sacrifice when all three are back on the court, it's going to be KD. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, I don't know about Mike D'Antoni. I think Mike D'Antoni will whisper over to Steve Nash like, hey, how about we let Harden take all the shots? And Steve Nash is like, I guess so. I don't know if that's the plan. Brandon, we make fun of you occasionally because among your many business ventures, you're also supporting several photographers. As every podcaster you do, you have a big photo shoot. But I have a good news for you, buddy. I think you can save some money now because you talked about coming up to New York and, buying all the jerseys for all your brand new Nets players. Don't have to. You already have the jerseys. When you're wearing a T-shirt or like a sweatshirt, that's KD. He hasn't played. Now you got your Harden jersey. It's just a regular. That's the James Harden jersey. Just hanging out. And then you have another one of you in a new Nets jersey. That's the Blake Griffin. That's Blake Griffin's official Brooklyn Nets jersey. Nobody's playing. That's it. Oh, that's going to be that's Kyrie sometimes when he's hanging out. They don't play, Brandon. I watched the game. One of the most exciting parts of the game was halftime when they showed KD warming up. I was like, oh, he's looking good. He had shorts on. Nope, back to the jeans. I was like, oh, okay. I just think we're living in a fantasy world and we keep saying when everyone's back 100%. When is that going to happen? It's just we keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And he's not a video game character. He's not just his life. Oh, I'm back. I'm 100%. We're not going to see that. We're going to see slow. And we still haven't seen KD out there besides halftime, Brandon. It's time to get nervous, buddy. Although you do save money on the uniforms.
Let me ask you guys a question. What is it about? What are we talking about here? We're talking about championships, right? That's what we're talking about. Every time you step foot in the locker room, it's about winning and losing. And right now, are the Nets winning or are they losing? They're winning. That's the only thing that matters. Yeah. So if this was the Lakers and we're going from the 1 seed then to the 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, what are they, 5 now or 6? Then it's a problem. But we're talking about a Nets team that's winning, Jenna. So until we start slipping, we can't even have this we shouldn't even have this conversation on the show anymore. We're winning.
All right, here's a note from our statistician, Dusty. Listen, 873 trios this year across the league have played more minutes together than KD, Harden, and Kyrie. Just something to think about. Got to get back to last night's national title game. How did Baylor spoil Gonzaga's pursuit of perfection? Head coach Steve Lavin's going to join us. Talk about that next. First things first. Back here, first things first, we got to talk about last night's national title game. We wondered whether Gonzaga could build off their momentous win Saturday night. It was a tremendous win. It turned out they couldn't. Baylor dominated from start to finish last night to capture the school's first men's basketball championship. To talk about all that, we got former UCLA and St. John's head coach Steve Lavin joining us this morning. Steve, good morning. Thanks for being with us. How shocked were you at last night's outcome?
The only dramatically surprising element was just the degree of domination. I expected a more compelling game, but not surprised. Baylor was the second best team all year long, and last night they were the best team in the country. And an old coach named John Wooden once said the two most important elements or words in basketball are balance and quickness. And he meant a balance of an inside-outside attack. He meant balance in terms of offensive spacing, balance of contributions from your front line as well as your backcourt. And Baylor had balance across the board and just dominated Gonzaga. The quickness, in my view, was the biggest difference because Baylor played a smothering defense. Their ball pressure, their footwork, active hands was exceptional.
Coach, yesterday Nick ticked off a lot of college basketball fans because he talked about this team, Gonzaga, not really being one of those dominant teams or a team that we will remember. Didn't think they were that good. Were they exposed yesterday as just a team that benefited from this year's situation?
I think when you look at the history of the game, this Gonzaga team would not be put in the top 5. But that's not a knock on them. They had an exceptional season, 31-1, but they ran into a team, Baylor, hit on all cylinders, playing with the chip on their shoulder. And so I salute, Mark Few for his graciousness last night. Not easy to do, but was a gentleman and was exemplary in terms of showing that grace in defeat. And it was authentic, heartfelt. And this is about Baylor. I mean, their backcourt, when you look at Butler and Teague and Mitchell, those three ultimately are the best backcourt in the country. You talk about 3 weapons, and they showed up and shared the basketball, They torched the nets from all angles. And again, defense created their offense. They completely unnerved, disrupted, and discombobulated Gonzaga. That was a Gonzaga team that we haven't seen all season long. And that's a credit to Baylor. And let's face it, Baylor came out of the toughest conference in the country, not the deepest. The Big Ten this year was the deepest conference in the country in terms of bids that made the NCAA tournament. But the Big 12, the ruggedness of that conference was great preparation for Baylor and ultimately led to them cutting down the nets.
Coach, I want to get kind of inside the game for a moment, because I think it was a huge sequence early when Suggs gets the 2 early fouls. Put yourself in Mark Few's shoes there if you can, because I understand, especially in the college game when you only get 5 fouls, you desperately want to avoid your star player getting 3 first-half fouls. But then you look at it and you say Suggs finished the game with 3 fouls. And Mark Few kind of fouled him out early while Baylor went on that extended run that they were never able to come back from. How do you balance that as a coach? Because you don't want him to not be available late, but when he was available late, the game was out of hand. Like, how did you think that was dealt with Suggs and the foul trouble?
Well, for starters, as you know, we get to Monday morning quarterback, or in this case, Tuesday morning quarterback, and which I'm grateful for. Yeah. But, you know, in real time, you're trying to feel the game. You know your personnel. You're trusting, you know, your instincts. Also, your assistant coaches who are collaboratively contributing. I go back to my last year as a head coach at St. John's in the NCAA tournament, 2015. Rashid Jordan, our point guard, picked up 2 early fouls against San Diego State. And I did the same thing. I took him to the bench, and he sat out the rest of the half. We were competitive, but we ultimately never were able to get back over the hump. We also had an injury to Dom Pointer in that game, which made a big difference. And we were shorthanded. We weren't playing at full strength. So I understand in terms of Mark Few playing the percentages and trusting that his team, who was undefeated up until last night, would be able to get back in the game. And it looked like they would. Gonzaga went on a run, cut it either to 9 or 10. But this Baylor team just kept answering the bell. They kept counter-punching and just pulled away. I can't think of a more dominant performance in a championship game defensively. I'd have to go back to 1990, Jerry Tarkanian's UNLV running Rebels when they blew out Duke in the title game. And the following year, Duke came back, won the national title. They beat UNLV in the semifinals in 91. But this defense was that good. And I'm including some other outstanding teams. Kentucky had some tremendous, defensive performances in championship level play. UCLA in 95. Jim Herrick, the head coach, then I was an assistant. But Baylor, again, I just marveled at their foot speed, their quickness. Think Alabama football, but in basketball. That's what we saw last night. Some of Nick Saban's teams, because of their foot speed and quickness and being well deployed and playing with that chip. But instead, we saw a college basketball version of Alabama's football defensively.
Coach, you are a kind and humble man, because if you were any of us on the show and you said what you said yesterday, you should have come on the show and said, I told you guys. What did old coach say? I told you, because I asked you. I said, hey, are you worried about an emotional letdown? He said, maybe emotional letdown, but you have to be worried if Gonzaga expended too much physical energy. Maybe they come out a little slow. Lose the tip. They ended up giving up 3 offensive rebounds. They get out to a 9-0 lead. They never look back. So are you willing to say that you were right, that Gonzaga was more physically sort of exhausted? Did that actually play a factor?
I think so. And again, now looking at it through the lens or the prism of, the morning after a game like last night, you start to see the bigger picture. And a little like deductive reasoning or Scotland Yard, Sherlock Holmes, and reverse engineering this. Nice. I think that game against UCLA took a great deal out of Gonzaga. Now, I think if this is a best-of-7 series, it probably goes 6 games. But at the end of it, Baylor would still win because those three guards, back to Teague and Mitchell and Butler, the quickness, the interchangeable elements, all three can pass, dribble, and shoot the ball, 42% from long range. And again, that's back to balance. When you can launch those rockets, as Baylor does, that stretches opponents' defenses and really exposed Gonzaga's lack of lateral foot speed. And then Baylor was hitting the hole in terms of dribble penetration and playing draw and kick basketball or getting to the rim, and really just discombobulated. They dismantled Gonzaga, who hadn't lost a game all season. So it's impressive. But back to your initial question, yes, there's no doubt that Gonzaga had expended so much fuel emotionally and physically, and that game against UCLA plays a part in this. But I think, at the end of the day, Baylor was going to win this game independent of whether or not Gonzaga had enough gas in their tank. But that did play a factor in the blowout, the dominating fashion that Baylor won the game with.
I agree. It felt like Gonzaga had their big moment that Saturday night, and that was it for them in the tournament. Whether they were tired or whatever it was, they were deflated in some way coming in. Not sure what they could have done about it. Coach, thanks so much. So just taking a look, and it's certainly an impressive run for Baylor as they are now your national champions. They become just the 5th team ever. Look at that, to beat both Final Four opponents by 15 points or more. That is how you dominate. Again, Coach, thank you. We got to take a shift back to the NFL now. Sam Darnold's what we're talking about this morning. The Jets shipped him to Carolina. Talk about that next. But first, check out Giannis in a fancy car.
If you're a car, what do you do for a living? Bitcoin? Bitcoin?
Man, no, we just work hard. We work extremely hard.
Work hard. All right. All right. Nice to meet you, man. See you guys.
Talk some Aaron Rodgers now. We have been talking about his future in Green Bay ever since they traded up for quarterback Jordan Love last year. Then, of course, Rodgers went out, won the MVP, and he said earlier this offseason he doesn't want to be a lame duck. Yesterday, Rodgers gave us a peek into what happens now. Take a listen.
We're exactly where we were last year when I made comments after the draft and throughout the season. I don't feel like any of that's changed. Even my comments directly after the last game, there was some, and we talked about it on this show. Yeah. Some people who thought, who made assumptions based on what I said. Nothing's really changed. My future is really, a lot of it's out of my control. That's why I mentioned, using words like a phrase like beautiful mystery, because it is quite uncertain which directions that things are going to go. All I can do is play my best, and I feel like last year I did do that, and may have thrown a wrench into some timelines that may have been thought about or desired. But ultimately, things haven't really changed on that front. I meant what I said last year, about really being at peace with the whole thing, and that hasn't changed. I feel good about the way I played. Feel good about the way I led. I loved, our interactions and everything that this show provided for me last year. And I think people got a raw look at, honest conversation.
Always some shades of gray there with Aaron Rodgers. Hey, Brian Westbrook back with us now. Brian, what do you make of the latest chapter in this Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers drama?
I think Aaron Rodgers continues to be one of the most honest players that we have in our league, especially when he goes on with Pat McAfee. I think he spoke his truth, and I think he's absolutely right. The Green Bay Packers would have had a much easier transition to Jordan Love if Aaron Rodgers didn't go out and have an MVP season, like I told Nick as well as Brandon that he was going to have an MVP season. If he didn't do that, then they had a great transition to Jordan Love. But he did throw a monkey wrench into it. He did put him in a position now where the Packers, if they're smart, they're saying we can't get rid of this guy at all. But here's the thing. If the Packers somehow bump their head and say we're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, all he has to do is look at Tom Brady and take a playbook or take a page out of his playbook. Listen, you spent 20 years in New England. No one thought that he was going to be leaving, but now he finds a home in Tampa Bay, a team full of talent, a team that's all they needed was a leader and a guy that can throw the ball around the field and not throw it to the other team. And if Aaron Rodgers can find that team somewhere else and then go win there, to me, he's in the best of both worlds. He can either stay with the Packers, which I think he wants to, or if the Packers bump their head, he goes to a different team that hopefully is stacked. He can win again. To me, that's a great combination for him. And Brandon, when you think about it, this should be simple for the Packers. If Aaron Rodgers is able to throw the football and he wants to play, then you keep him there in Green Bay. You never let a guy like this, that type of talent, outside of your locker room.
Listen, something's wrong with Aaron Rodgers, and I absolutely love it. You are right. He is real. He's authentic. He is telling us exactly how he feels. This dude is enjoying this. Think about it. We, as NFL players, we are taught and trained not to rock the boat, not to create any distractions. He is leaning into this every opportunity he gets. This comes down to one thing. It comes down to money. That's what it comes down to. Like you said, if he can still do it, which he can, he won MVP. Great job calling that out. Nobody thought, he would win MVP, especially the time when you said he would win MVP. Nobody was talking about Aaron Rodgers. But anyways, he can still do it, so you keep the guy. So right now, it's about, is this a 4-year deal? How much of it is guaranteed? Is it a 2-year deal? And you can see the Green Bay Packers' hesitancy. Like this dude is 38. Is it 2 years, 3 years? Is he going to be the next Tom Brady? And Aaron Rodgers is saying, I'm going to continue to play. So Nick, that comes down to money. That's all it is. And it's about, Jordan Love sitting there, and every time he gets an opportunity to shove it in their face, he's doing it.
All right. If you guys are right, and he really is enjoying this, and I don't have a relationship with Aaron, but if I did, this is the advice I would give him. Because there is a card that all of a sudden he can play that's never been available to him until right now. And before I even say what that is, Wilds, let me ask you a quick question. I can be mostly rhetorical, I guess. The best job, the highest paying job in media on a per minute worked basis, do you know what it is? Off the top of your head, you can just give it a guess. Do you know what it is?
Per minute, like announcing the 100-meter dash.
Oh yeah, that's good, but no, it is the number one is to be a television
Monday
judge.
Night Football.
Judge Judy records like 12 days a year, makes like $75 million. Right behind that, game show host. It's about a $10 million a year job. Rodgers said yesterday, I'd like to do both. Host Jeopardy full-time and play quarterback for the Packers. Rodgers has never been able to be like, I'll go play baseball. You know what he could do after a successful 2 weeks of hosting Jeopardy? Say, guys, I love this. There's no travel. Nobody hits me. It doesn't pay quite as well as you guys pay, but I can do it for 30 years. So you guys do what you want with Jordan Love. But my options are pretty open because they include this, which I'm good at, I'm awesome, and it also pays, 8 figures a year. Now, I don't know how many people will take him seriously about it, but I think Tony Romo ended up choosing television over going back and playing quarterback because it pays really well and the hours are really good. And so we have seen different guys. Kyler Murray flirted with baseball. Russell Wilson at different times has flirted with baseball. Rodgers doesn't have that. I wonder if he wants to flirt with Jeopardy a little bit more. Because he did also say in that interview he wants that job full-time in addition to playing quarterback for the Packers. Maybe he can press a little, and I'm being slightly tongue-in-cheek here, but not really. If he's willing to go on McAfee's show and just continue throwing bombs, he could up the ante one more degree and just see if Green Bay still says, no, we're going to hedge our bet with Jordan Love. So I'd like to see if Rodgers will escalate it a step further.
Brian, I see you shaking your head, but before I see why, here's the tricky spot if you're a producer of Jeopardy. I don't think you want to keep on guest hosting. At some point, the people who run Jeopardy are going to say, like, all right, let's make a call here. Let's make a decision. Who do we have? I don't think they're going to wait for Aaron Rodgers to play out 2 more years. So I actually love this idea. We know that he likes it. So it seems like you think it's more of a fantasy, but I'm agreeing with Nick. I think this is more reality than people are giving it credit for.
I think it's a fantasy. It may be a want after your football career is over, but the difference between Tony Romo in Aaron Rodgers is the conversation of one of the greatest of all time. Tony Romo was never in that conversation. Aaron Rodgers is. And so if you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, you're talking about chasing rings. So you have to go, you could go host Jeopardy, and that's cool, and that ought to be fun. But you go win a couple more rings so that now you're in that conversation of 2 and 3 rings, and now you're in the upper echelon of the conversation of the quarterbacks in the NFL. To me, I think that's going to be his number one goal, not necessarily hosting Jeopardy.
Yeah, and then also there's too much compete left in him. Talked about this before. Man, have they wasted his career out in Green Bay? You mean to tell me Aaron Rodgers has 1 ring? He's won the championship 1 time? Come on, this dude has that in the back of his head. He's not going out there and host any TV show or sit on anybody's desk right now at this moment. He's also talked about that's not what he want to do as far as talk about sports anyways. So when you look at this, Nick, why is this different? And I'm pushing the conversation forward just a little bit. Because he also, some of the comments that he made this weekend was, I'm not going to do what Russell Wilson is doing. Like, I won't do that. This is exactly what Russell Wilson is doing. They're utilizing the media and their platform to create leverage.
It's a list.
But Brent, can I just jump in a second? I think when you talk about Russell Wilson, you get this idea that Russell Wilson he's bothered, he's upset, he's hurt by whatever the organization has not done for him out there in Seattle. I think there's a part of Aaron Rodgers that likes this, that likes being a little cryptic with his answers, that likes sort of throwing stuff out there to just sort of test the waters. I think he's enjoying this. I think before I thought he was disgruntled. I don't think he is. I think you're right, Nick. He's in the driver's seat. He knows what he wants. He's coming off an MVP season. He's got time in front of him. He's comfortable. He knows he's good. I think he's enjoying the way he's playing with the media a little bit. What do you think?
Well, he might be enjoying playing with the media. He does not enjoy that they've drafted Jordan Love. He does not enjoy that he felt that he had to sing for his supper last year. And I do appreciate everyone on the show taking my insane Jeopardy take somewhat seriously. It was somewhat tongue-in-cheek. But the point that I'm trying to make is this, Brandon. I think the Packers want to have it both ways. The Packers want to have one of the best quarterbacks in the league playing for them, while also having their replacement get groomed, get ready, and waiting in the wings. And I think Rodgers, that's the issue that he can press. He can't make them draft a certain position. He can't make them spend money in free agency. I do wonder if he could make them trade Jordan Love. I do wonder if he could say, guys, I don't want to come to work every day being reminded that you guys thought I was cooked.
He doesn't care about Jordan Love,
use that asset on something else.
Listen, he's a lion. Lions ain't wasting his time with a sheep. Think about that. Jordan Love, there ain't no competition there. So he don't care if Jordan Love is on the roster. He just want his money. You guys went out there, made a bad move, a terrible decision. Westbrook's MVP went out there, lit it up. Right? Now it's about, now you got to pay me. That's what he talked about out there. So that's what that is. And Jenna, this is what I would say to what you said. In the NFL, you're trained not to be a distraction. So for him to sit up here and make these comments, going back to the NFL draft last year, going back to the NFC Championship after that loss and what he said, and then his comments last week, and then his comments yesterday, you don't see that, especially at the quarterback position, because your job is to protect the locker room. Your job is to protect the organization. So when he walks in there, the owners, and I know it's a different situation in Green Bay, but the general manager, the head coach, everybody's like, bruh, why are you throwing us under the bus? Why are you doing it? That's not what we're taught in the NFL. That's not what a team is supposed to be. So Aaron Rodgers, yes, he's enjoying this, but he's doing it because he's using that as leverage. And that's the same thing Russell Wilson did. Pete Carroll didn't want to talk. Okay, you don't want to talk? Then I'm going to go out in the media. I'm going to say exactly what's on my mind, because if I do that, it's going to rock the boat and it's going to force you to sit at the table, or I'm going to get what I want.
You know, Brandon, I just think that Aaron Rodgers is super comfortable. He understands where he is right now with this organization, that they need him. If they want to go to the next level, he has to be there. He also understands that he's playing at some of his best football that he's played in the last few years. And when you have that, Now you can take those shots at the organization for drafting Jordan Love. Now you can take those shots at the organization for not putting better pieces around you. Again, remember, the Packers have had Aaron Rodgers for a very long time, and they haven't got to where they should be when you're talking about one of the best quarterbacks of our era. And so that's a total mistake. And this is another opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to take another shot at the Packers organization.
All right, let's set that aside for a second because Kevin Wilde spent the day looking for the weird and the wonderful. There he is on the third baseline. All right, Wildes, what do you got for us?
Here we go.
Oh, you know what's a terrible summer pool party gift? An inflatable garbage can. It didn't sell very well.
This was awesome.
Luckily, it got a second life. You can throw them at the Astros players and teams in the outfield. Then the security takes it, so like, don't worry, we'll get a real garbage can. I thought the Astros garbage can thing was going to blow over. However, there's so many garbage cans in baseball stadiums, I don't think it's ever going to die. And I don't think you're going to be able to police it. Once you see a fan grabbing a garbage can headed to the field, security's got to get in the way, especially if the Astros are playing. On to the wonderful Greg Soto.
Sports.
Fantastic, fantastic idea. Some people say it's just a wild pitch, 98 miles an hour to the top of the screen. Actually, strong strategy. This works in Little League. It works in Babe Ruth League. It works in the Major Leagues. If you're a hitter, you can't tell me that you feel comfortable after you watch a guy throw 100 miles an hour basically to the upper deck. Moving on to the weird, oh boy, Red Sox. Brian Westbrook said Red Sox players have it made. All baseball players, actually, because they just get to hang out and watch videos. Nope. They also occasionally sometimes get hit with a carpet. Larger question here is not how windy it was in Boston, but how effective was this batting practice pitcher? My goodness, you're still throwing strikes in the darn hurricane? They're like, we love this. So that's today's weird and wonderful.
He's out for running back.
The world of baseball.
Put him at running back, B. Look how he took that hit. Jeez.
Baseball players is out for 2 weeks now.
You got such a thing for baseball players. You can't do it. It's not fair. We're talking about Sam Darnold. Who should be his replacement under center in New York? Zach Wilson? You like Justin Fields? We're going to toss around the options next. First things first. Brian, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Brian.
Saturday night, the NASCAR Cup Series moves to FS1. Catch all the short track action from Martinsville Saturday, 7 Eastern on FS1 and anywhere on the Fox Sports app. All right, guys, time for stories to start your morning. Brought to you by Subway. Talking some JETS Jets. They're sending Sam Darnold to Carolina for 3 draft picks. Sam Darnold's excited. He's getting pumped up. He's already got blue on. Here's Darnold partying after getting the news. And was Panther in the building. Brandon, you were a Jet for 2 seasons. What was your reaction to the Sam Darnold deal?
Well, first, great trade. Why was it a great trade? Because the last week and a half, all we've been talking about was should the Jets keep Sam Darnold and draft a quarterback at number 2. That nonsense is what we talked about all week. And I'm glad they made the right decision. Everybody knew that has a little bit of a clue when it comes to football, that you're not going to keep a guy like Sam Darnold and draft someone at 2. So they got it right there. But Jenna, I'm disappointed because I'm occupying a player's seat right now. What is a 6th rounder in 2021 going to do for me right now? I love the compensation, 2nd, a 4th, a 6th, but the 2nd and the 4th comes next year. So right now in the National Football League, this is not for long. We're talking about guys that live week to week and coaches that live month to month. We got to win right now. So I just don't know what Joe Douglas is thinking there. So I had to go do a little research, Nick. I had to call some guys around the league, some guys in the scouting department, some former general managers, some current general managers. Who is this Joe Douglas guy? Please tell me, because I pulled up on One Jet Drive in Florham Park a year ago, right before the pandemic, and I hung out with the team, met a few guys, met Joe Douglas, and I walked away with Joe Douglas like, there wasn't much there. You know, he just a one-word answer type of dude. I was like, man, he's really not inspiring me. But these guys said, Brandon, and this was just last night, they said, Brandon, when you talk about college scouting, when you talk about the draft, this dude is a beast. This dude knows exactly what he's doing. So I gotta believe, because I am a Jets fan and I love the Jets, I gotta believe that he has a plan, whether it's more ammo to move up in this year's draft, or if he's like, you know what, we're in a good place this year, and next year we'll actually have more ammo. So I got to sit back and watch, but I do like the overall compensation. I do like, them moving on from Sam Darnold and then bringing in Justin Fields or Zach Wilson.
So I have an unfortunate announcement to make for the show. And I hope to do this show for a very long time. We actually just did our 900th show. We're approaching 1,000. But if I do ever leave this show, we all know it would only be for one of two jobs, to run an NBA team or to run an NFL team. And Wilds, after that latest commentary from Brandon Marshall, I have crossed him off the list for assistant general manager. The idea that Brandon Marshall's like, the Jets need to win right now. Brandon, you can coach receivers. You can maybe be head athletic trainer, maybe even offensive coordinator. But the idea that Joe Douglas should be making trades with how can the Jets compete in 2021 in mind is total lunacy. They did as well as they could have done for Sam Darnold. They got a second-round pick that I think is going to be a high second-round pick. They're going to have to wait a year, but they have plenty of draft capital this year. I think it speaks to how far Sam Darnold's stock has fallen, that the guy who was the third overall pick just a few years ago, that now getting a 2, a 4, and a 6 feels good. But Wilds, I just read right before the segment that the Panthers are now, on the other side of this, allowing Teddy Bridgewater to talk to teams about a trade. And I do wonder, because it feels like every quarterback move starts ringing your Patriot ears a bit. The Patriots, we knew, couldn't trade for Darnold because they were Jets when Patriots weren't going to do a deal for a quarterback within the division. But two things happened for the Patriots with this trade. One is it solidified that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to cost you a first-round pick. If Darnold costs a 2, a 4, and a 6, Jimmy G is going to cost you a first-round pick. And the other thing it did, though, was it made Teddy Bridgewater available. And you look around, and the Patriots are on the short list of teams that I think are at least having meetings today about Teddy Bridgewater, because the Panthers are not bringing him back to pay him $20 million to back up Darnold, who they clearly want to be the starter. So that's my other reaction. I think the Jets did well, and I think the Panthers are choosing Darnold over Bridgewater, which I don't totally understand, but I guess they just think Adam Gase, everything he touches turns to slime, and so they're seeing he'll be better after Adam Gase, which maybe he will be.
Slime.
Okay. The Patriots are not going to give up a first-round pick. We refuse to. We're just not doing it. 49ers can stop asking. It's like Nick Saban, you can stop asking. I'm not going to do it. And Brandon, I just want to clarify something, because in your Jets sort of fever dream, you keep on talking about Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. And unfortunately, this is the only show that keeps on mentioning Justin Fields. They are in love, my friend, with Zach Wilson. So I know you're Jets, Jets, but I think you got to get used to Zach Wilson, or really call Woody again or text him or whatever you need to do and try to start selling him on Justin Fields, because it is Zach Wilson all over New York media.
All right, so I was trying to save this one a little bit, okay? But now, because you're putting me on the spot, and y'all keep talking about this Zach Wilson, guys, I'm going to go for it. Go to QBcollective.com. And who do you see there? You're going to see a big picture of, no, not that guy, Justin Fields. That's who you're going to see there. And who's on that list? Who runs that? Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. You got the Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur. Where did Mike LaFleur come from? He came from San Francisco passing game coordinator there last year. Now he's the offensive coordinator with the Jets. What do they like to do? They like to go keeper right, keeper left, play action this, play action that, bootleg, waggle.
And
this dude fits the bill. 4-4. Yeah, right, Nick. If they do it with Zach Wilson, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, but I'm going to be disappointed. No way, you got to take this guy.
Brandon, for the record, I don't disagree with you. You are now getting back on the assistant GM list, because I do think your Justin Fields evaluation is correct.
Here's the helmet.
But it's not what the Jets are going to do. So one other thing, Wild, just before we end the show, that this trade, I know you do, Brandon, but one other thing that this trade guarantees is, for just the third time ever, we're going to have quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. That happened in 99 with McNabb, Couch, and it happened in, I think, 71. I think Dan Pastorini and Archie Manning were involved. We've never had quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. We are now guaranteed to have quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3 in this upcoming draft. Yeah, Brandon just loves the draft.
Brandon's still talking to that thing.
Get
Have a
Zach
great day,
Wilson jersey,
everyone.
buddy.
Undisputed starts right now.